giving you guys another episode. Sean, you still got that cough in you?
Yeah, big dude. Uh I've been rocking a 3 week long cough, and you know, I guess it's like a winter thing. Maybe it's I don't know. You were sick for the winter break. Mom was sick. Gerald was sick. Tita was sick. All of our family was sick in Atlanta, and then they passed it to me up here somehow.
Right.
But I'm just, I only have the cough and a little runny nose. I feel energy levels are high energy
Okay.
levels.
All right. Good vibes. Good
Not
vibes.
dealing with. I did have a crippling headache a couple days ago that you were on the phone with me for, and
Yeah.
it was about one of my darkest moments of 2024.
Yep.
But we're
12 days
back.
in. No biggie.
I'm feeling good. There's going to be much darker moments this year anyway, so it's all good.
Yeah. I mean, you know, at least you're getting more sunlight per day than darkness per day right now. So there is, right? Isn't that how that works?
Completely false. But we are getting more sunlight today than we did yesterday.
Right.
You
That's what
said
I'm
more
saying.
sunlight than darkness. We still only have
Ooh,
like five
ooh.
hours.
Well, you're slowly getting your sunlight back.
Yeah. Yeah. By the time it's at Iditarod, you got half light, half dark.
So it'll be interesting to see how we do on this intro for you guys today because we are up against the clock. Sean is about to be on the road to the Copper Basin, and we've got this small window to talk about the Knik 200, which Sean was at and has lots of insight on, and then also to give a little preview of the remix of the Copper
The
Basin
quickie on the
300.
preview. We'll play literally like 80-90% Connect. And
80-90 Knik. Okay. All right.
just a
That's the
quickie
ratio.
on Copper Basin because we can talk. We can have all the time in the world after this to talk about Copper Basin. But
Absolutely.
yeah, Connect 200 was super super enjoyable weekend to reconnect with a lot of friends, and it was a really just good vibes. It's a really fun race to go to, and I think it's if you're in Alaska and you have the availability to go and see the start or the finish or somewhere in between, it's just an hour and a half from Anchorage, so it's definitely worth going to. But yeah,
And
of course, go ahead, Brennan.
well, I was gonna say if anyone went to, I can't speak to the start of the race, but man, the end of the race was exciting. You
Yeah, that
know,
was. I mean,
with Brent and Emily, but then even like the race for, I'm pretty sure Ryan Reddington got third pretty easily, but then the race for 4 and 5 between what was that? That was Amanda and Travis Beals, and then like Eddie was like 6 or 7 minutes behind that. I mean if you actually went to the finish line for this one, it would have been super exciting to see. So just thought I would throw that in there.
yeah,
Not every finish is exciting. Sometimes it's
most aren't,
a musher comes
honestly.
in and then 15 minutes, another musher comes in, or maybe it's 3 hours later, another musher comes in. So just like seeing the video from Mikhail Casey of the finishing, that was awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, do you have the list of finish times up? Uh
Yeah, let's go ahead and share that for you. Yeah, bam.
all right. So it's not like in perfect order. Like
No.
it's not like that's the case. Last place was Josiah, so he's just like there in fifth. So yeah, I was
Yep.
we'll start from the bottom and or not from the bottom of the list, but from the bottom of the finishers. Firstly, there's some scratches. It was pretty high attrition rate for this race. Uh, there was really soft and punchy trails, so uh, statistically, you're gonna have more dogs get a sore wrist or a sore shoulder. That was a big thing with people like Matt Failer, uh, Ed Hopkins, And we had, Matt Randall had an unfortunate incident where he hurt his knee trying to pick some litter up off the trail. A lot of the booties were flying off with these punchy trails, and it was basically, the people describe those conditions as sugary. So it literally, the snow, it looks, feels, and it has everything similar to what sugar would be like out there, which is just real soft, and it's not good for sliding efficiently on your runners and on your sled. So, um, you know, hydration, was a big thing with dogs. People needing to keep kind of go take the extra effort to keep their dogs hydrated. Saw some people kind of see some early signs of uh issues that were like, all right, you know what, our dogs aren't super, they're not, we're not seeing nice clear urine. Let's, you know, it wasn't like it got a serious situation, but it was just a step or two before that. And that's when mushers, it's always that just before it's a serious situation that they are able to see that in their dogs and realize, all right, let's either get this dog some IV, or B, maybe we just call it a race. We've got a couple dogs that are a little dehydrated, and we're running the Cusco in 2 weeks. I think Josh had some hydration issues. Josh McNeil, he's running the Cusco in 2 weeks. That's the big picture here. Only the top 5 teams here in the Knik get paid out. He was looking to be in that top 5, but once it didn't seem like it was in the cards, it's like, all right, let's just wait until we get to Cusco, get our team back and healthy and 100%, and then we can go, over to Bethel. Maybe, you get 10th place, you get 10 grand pretty much over there. So it's not just about money, but it's also just like, that's the bigger, more competitive event that mushers are kind of like, I'm going to hold my like best team and make my push, in that event over this event. Because if you could have, a lot of these scratches, they could have finished with a healthy team, but the recovery might have been a little bit longer. You might have had some dogs that otherwise would have made it to Cusco and still need to take time off, a couple weeks later. So it was just kind of a risk management thing with those teams. The Red Lantern, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to ask you a question. So you're talking about sugary snow, and I'm over here not a musher, and I'm thinking of like a comparison, right? So if we were in a snow fight, this would be the least desirable snow to have in your corner as you're trying to like throw snowballs. Is that right?
That's a very well put. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I just was trying to visualize things a little bit since I don't have that experience of being in Alaska like you do. So thank you for clarifying that. And the other thing I was going to say, and this maybe isn't the case for all the mushers, but I was talking to Eddie the other day, and he was telling me that he himself was a little bit dehydrated because in a race like this, where it's just like it's 24 hours essentially, right? I think it was I think the winning time was 25 or 26 hours. Um, I don't think he was maybe giving himself the same amount of care as the dogs, and so we were talking about. I was watching the Kale Casey video. I was like, oh, you looked a little tired at the end there, which obviously everyone is, but he was like, man, I don't think I drank enough water. So I just thought that was an interesting point to bring up from the musher's perspective is like, yeah, obviously you want your dogs to be hydrated and well fed and all of that, but also there's an element of the musher taking care of themselves too.
Yeah, it's really hard to want to drink water when it's cold out and you're not hungry and you're not thirsty really, and water just tastes so bland. So these people, a lot of folks, Gatorade is or something, or a liquid IV or anything you can do to make you want to drink some kind of liquid. I mean, literally you could drink Coca-Cola, anything would help over nothing. But it's hard to take care of yourself out there. And it is something that I know that Eddie would do in a longer race. You can kind of get away with it in the Knik 200s. It's such a short a span of time. But if he had a couple more days left of this race, that would have become a serious issue for him. So, yeah. Wait, where are you going? I was back. Okay. So yeah, so Josiah with the Red Lantern, that was his first. He was the Dallas CV team. That was his first finish of a Iditarod qualifier, and sounded like his team did really well, and they were planning on taking it nice and slow. And I don't know, it's hard to say the exact list, but I saw Isaac Teaford finish shortly before, maybe a few hours before him, and Ibby Weemark. They were really close. Those are two of my best friends, so it was cool to see. It's cool to see them finish, and again, they've those guys in the back of the pack. It's not like something went wrong and they had to take it easy. Like that was the plan. They had like these dogs that were either, I know Isaac had a 2-year-old team, so there was some inexperience there, and maybe Ibby's team had some young dogs, but also maybe they hadn't had as many miles. And so it's just about getting a positive 200-mile trip under their belt. Oh, sick! That was a sweet page there. The yellow.
Yellow. Oh,
Yeah.
that's the Copper Basin.
Oh, that's a copper. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
And
then I pulled this one up because I feel like it's a little bit easier to see the actual finishing times. But it's funny because I'm looking at this is track leaders, and it actually gave Brent a faster
yeah, the
finishing time. So it's
tracking situation for this race. It's not the race's fault, but for whatever reason, there was a lot of it was it wasn't pinging as often, and it was really hard to tell who was in front, who wasn't. But anyways, there's a lot of names to go through, and I don't have like a ton of time. But we'll kind of fast forward, to I guess the front of the race, and uh, I think obviously the biggest story was Emily Robinson, 16 years old, beating the last two Iditarod champions. She was behind for 199 miles, and she passed Brent 1 mile from the finish line with an amazing video that we should share but it's such a cool video where they're just before the finish line. Brent's in the lead, and then he's looking over his shoulder, and Emily's just hauling ass coming up onto him, and Brent's like, son of a bitch. He just knows that there's nothing he can do. Is her team's faster. He's running at he wishes that the race was 1 mile shorter, or else he would have won. But ton of respect to Emily Robinson, her brother and dad, and it's been a family affair, them training the dogs together, and just an insanely fast and well-conditioned, well-trained team. Here's Brennan with the video. Let's check it out if you're on YouTube. If you're not, well, I'll tell you. I can do a play-by-play. But here comes Brent through the woods. There's a couple different like lakes right before the finish line, and on those lakes, that's when it's kind of easiest to pass. I think you kind of are technically in no man's land where you don't have to actually yield to the team that's passing you, as you do for the rest of the race. If they call trail, you just kind of have to stop your team. Brent's, he's ski poling, trying to get his team an extra half a mile an hour faster by helping him out. He's running up the hill, and then you can see Emily coming in behind. She's also pedaling, but she's also just kind of calling up her team. And you can see Brent's dogs are kind of more in travel mode. And then you see Emily coming, and they're freaking like fully loping, like pulling and running as fast as they possibly can. I mean, you can just see the difference in speed. So,
I love it, man.
She's got a really fast team, and it's pretty impressive. I think, I was talking to my buddy Alex, and he was like, Dave Turner is a mid distance specialist. He's never run the 1,000-mile Iditarod. Sure, he's run some 300s. But just because Emily has been specializing in 60-mile race or the 150 junior Iditarod or the 100-mile Willow or the 100-mile, Knik or whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean that's why she did so well. I mean, look at Dave Turner. He is specializing in these shorter distances too, and he ended up scratching for one reason or another, right? So it's not just about the fact that she's specialized in shorter distances. This was her first ever mid distance. 200. I guess 150 is a mid distance, but this is there's a big difference between 150 and 200. And she just, I mean, deserves all the credit.
Absolutely.
As well as, of course, her family and her support system. Everybody's got a support system, though. Every single musher's got a system of help, whether it's in the training or financially or just with someone to talk to. And she has that too. And I think, it just doesn't need to be downplayed how big of a deal this is to win this race. It's kind of cool. It's just to come up on the scene like this and just be like, yo, what up? I'm here. People spend 10 years trying to get this amount of success, and she's done it in 2, or she's probably done it. She's probably been mushing her whole life. It's been but now people are hearing about it. So,
well, and like one thing I wanted to say is like she, in some ways, is kind of rewriting some of the rules with these races, right? Because, like usually there's an age requirement, but she's clearly skilled enough to kind of like bypass the age requirement. Yeah, I just think like I think she's won the junior Iditarod twice.
I want to say 3 times potentially.
And so my question is like, well, at what point is the Iditarod going to be like, all right, you can have your run at the Iditarod?
When she's 18. I mean, reality is, I think
they didn't bend that for Dallas.
Nope. He would turn 18 March 2nd or 3rd. I don't remember, 4th maybe. But he's the youngest Iditarod finisher just because his birthday was right before. But I think maybe, I don't know. So there's some musher coming up whose birthday might be just the right amount to where they can actually be the new youngest Iditarod finisher, but I'm not sure. But yeah, they had to grant special permission for a junior musher, so they basically had to have already completed some other Iditarod qualifier or just have proven to have aptitude. And barely Emily passed the test to get in there. She does have some aptitude in the mushing department, it seems. And then, so she, I think it's just so cool. This is blowing up. This is huge for the mushing
Great
scene.
For the sport. Yep.
Everybody's it's just spreading around the internet rather quickly. I'm scared to ask Emily to come onto the podcast now because she's probably getting hit up by the New York Times and getting hit up by ESPN.
We're probably bottom of the list.
Bottom of the list.
Right there at the bottom.
We hope to get her on here. I got to hang out with her dad a little bit during the weekend, and you could see he was in race mode a little bit, making sure that she had everything she needed, especially at that halfway point. And
what's her dad's name? So much. Is it Wally? Walter?
Wally. Yeah, people call him Wally.
Yep.
I don't know. I was like, I don't know if I should call him Wally or
You're
Walter.
not quite on that level. I'm not on the Wally level.
Maybe
you're still a Walter. Yeah. He's still a Walter to you. Yep.
Yeah. It's probably Mr. Robinson.
Don't get ahead. Hey, don't. Better. Maybe that's Don't get ahead of yourself, man. Jeez.
Yeah. But it's cool. And I do want to say, like, that's funny, because the headline is 16-year-old girl beats Iditarod champions, but also like to Brent and Ryan Reddington, 2nd and 3rd place. Every time these guys enter a race, that's always the headline, unless they win it. So it's like, it's cool that they are there anyways. Brent could have just kept running his 200-mile series or 300-mile series in Eureka in the middle of nowhere, which, by the way, I saw he's out of the Copper Basin. So he, this is a tough race. This was a really hard race. I think that's the consensus from all of those guys that were out there. It was not just a last year was a really hard trail and fast trail. This year is just really uh, slow, tough going miles. You saw 5.5, 6 miles an hour by the top teams at certain sections of the trail. So it was a really tough race. And I think there's potential some teams might need a few extra days to kind of rest and recovery. But it didn't look like Emily's team needed a couple of days. Those guys were all lunging, sparking, wagging their tails at the finish line. And but yeah, anytime you're an Iditarod champion and you enter into a race, you got the target on your back. It's gonna be that headline of fill in the blank beats Iditarod champion. But we're glad that you're still out there, Ryan and Brent. Trying to win these things, and keep these races competitive. So yeah, Brent, of course, he's super stoked that he's like, you know what, dude, I'm so glad that if someone were going to pass me, that it was Emily. He had a really cool attitude about things. Ryan came in afterwards and it was funny. And I didn't realize how close everything was. I knew it was kind of close, but he was literally like looking over his shoulder and you could just see as he came into the Knik Lake and he knew the moment he knew, he's like, all right, there's like, I got third. Like he was just like, because
Yeah, he looked over his shoulder
working.
a bunch coming into the finish line. I thought that was
Yeah.
interesting.
He kept on
Dude.
saying all weekend about how he's got, oh, this isn't really my A team. And he's like, all right, sure.
I don't know,
he had
dude.
Iditarod champion dogs on his team that won literally like 9 months ago. But, maybe he's playing with us or maybe
he's now playing it. He didn't have a full Iditarod roster,
sure.
right? So he had a couple.
You got to take some of the
youngins, like
for sure.
He wasn't fully like not saying like the complete truth, but he wasn't. It's fair. I would do that too. Like,
I'm sure
man, this isn't the A squad, man.
Yeah, I think Red Lantern this year probably, and then third place. But yeah, and then probably almost as cool of a finish as Emily beating Brent there in the last second was Amanda Otto coming in fourth place. And Travis Beals, I think he left the halfway point in 10th place, and he was just knocking teams down. And the last half of the race, just passing one team after another. I don't know how he does it. He just had such a fast team there at the end. So, something to keep in mind, even though Amanda beat Travis passed four or five teams there. And he had finished really, really strong and he was busting his ass. And then Amanda, she also, when I watched her leave Eagle Quest with Eddie, she was in front of Eddie by 5 seconds. And then Eddie passed her shortly thereafter. And I was like, all right, I guess Eddie's kind of gonna not see Amanda again. And then, Amanda she kind of took it easy. She knew she's got 50 miles left from Eagle Quest. So let's not like make this push. Let's not call them up yet, and it's not like Eddie called them up right then either, but you could tell she kind of took it slow, took it, didn't ask a lot of the dogs, went the speed that they were going to go no matter what. And then she got there, I don't know at what mile, must have been maybe 5, 10, 15 miles from the finish line. And she started, all right, let's race these guys. And this was like a big deal for her. She's worked with these dogs for 4 years. Some of these dogs, this was kind of their first time trying to ask to be competitive and kind of race with them at the end. And, and they responded really well to it. And, I think Travis, I spent some time chatting with Travis afterwards. He was just like, God, she's like in such good shape. Amanda, I don't think Travis is out running, running.
She couldn't weigh that much either too, man. She's a tiny girl.
Yeah. Yeah, no, she's a total athlete, and they were both.
She's a former soccer player.
Yeah, yep. She played college soccer, but I mean, no, played college soccer 6 years ago. doesn't
Yeah,
mean
but like
shit.
soccer stamina is different.
It is,
Like
but at the same time, dude, you could just not do anything for 6 years. You would be in terrible shape.
she
So
has not been doing anything for
she's
6
been
years
doing
though.
something. That's the thing. Yeah. So she's
But
in great shape.
let me just bring this up real quick. So again, I was talking to Eddie, kind of talking about his perspective. So you were just saying like she left with the 150 mic. What's the checkpoint?
150 Eagle Quest.
Eagle Quest. So she left Eagle Quest and she was in front, and then you said Eddie got back in front of her, and you kind of thought, all right, Eddie maybe has it in the bag. So Eddie was saying like when he passed Amanda, I guess like I think her dogs were maybe a little bit bummed out because she had to drop some dogs or something, and maybe they weren't reacting well or something. And he was saying that like when he passed her, that like it looked like there was some struggling going on, or like just the dogs weren't reacting well, whatever. So like he goes on by and like he was looking over his shoulder for a considerable amount of time, and then I guess he's like, all right, I haven't seen anyone for a little while, and kind of like he kind of was like just kind of coasting in, felt like he was in a good spot where he wasn't probably gonna get to Ryan. And then he says, like, out of nowhere, Amanda and Travis just come like right behind him and just like go right behind him and or right by him. And I just thought like he was saying like his dogs were kind of like at a travel pace at that point. Whereas like Travis and Amanda are in this like back and forth race with each other. He's like, I didn't stand a chance. I just watched them go right by.
Yeah. Yeah. His dogs, I have like we talked about before the race are
His Travis or his Eddie's?
Eddie's dogs. This is their first time kind of competing as a team, and there's probably some extra excitement from the dogs. Dude, his dogs at the start line were fucking terrifying. They were so like I tried to like help them get to the start line, and I almost got like ran over. They were just like totally like next level stoked, which is a cool thing. But also, then you see the team at the end of the race, and he's not calling them up, not because they were like you said, they're in travel mode. It's like he knew I'm not going to ask this of them right now. This is not the time, and respect, for that decision, and then yeah, Travis, he and Amanda were both red in the face. They finished 5 seconds from each other, and it was a really cool finish to see. And a lot of great races put together and a really fun weekend. And I'm glad I got to be a part of it. And I'm gonna always be interested in the Knik 200 moving forward after this weekend. It was really a special couple of days.
So yeah, so I went ahead and pulled up the list for the Copper Basin 300. Again, we're kind of up against the clock. So Sean, good work with being there at the Knik and providing that kind of further details and analysis. Hopefully, I don't know where else you're getting that from. So hopefully you guys that
Yeah,
are
KLKC
listening,
Live. We do. We got. I'll shout out him, dude, because
of
I try.
course.
He's the best at live coverage of these races. We hope he's going to be a Copper Basin. I know that only at the start line and the finish line can you actually really get a good signal. But he's really, I think, the kind of positivity that we need in Mushing, and providing some really awesome content. So if you haven't found him
Shout
already,
out. Big shout
find
out.
him.
I
Yeah.
loved the drone coverage. I
Yep.
love the interviews at the finish line. I love that. I personally, again, I'm not big into the mushing world, obviously, but like I've never heard of him until this weekend. I think I saw one video from him prior to this weekend. So I didn't know much about him, but I love the work he's doing. And I love, like, I went back and watched one of his videos. He started interviewing you. I thought that was kind of fun. Like, mushing Alaska expert Sean Underwood here with some crucial analysis. And I'm just like,
Crucial, dude.
I love it. I love it. But yeah,
All right,
so let's do a little quick preview of the Copper Basin. And yeah, where's your head at here?
So yes, Sydney Ball. I think she's running Vern Halter's dogs. Mike Parker, he had the terrible incident there on the Denali Highway, and he's kept it going in honor of those dogs. I know they're with him in his heart as he starts this 300-mile journey tomorrow morning. I'm not sure on Justin Owens. I don't know who that is, but that's my alarm to wrap shit up. The Jonah Bacon with Deke Nachtenborn. It's gonna be fun to meet him. Sean Williams, he's running his third rookie Iditarod this year. I don't know Tony Angelo, but I'm gonna find out this weekend. Matt Pavelio, I'm handling for him. He's run the Copper Basin, I think, already twice. He's finished 8th before. I think he's got a kind of like his team is probably not a competitive team this year. Nick Petit, he's always a threat in these mid distance races, but kind of a quieter race for him in the Knik 200. I think he finished 7th or 9th, maybe. So maybe not some as in years prior. He's not such a lock to win this race as he might have been 2 years ago. Elk Hall, Matt's now wife, is running a puppy team for Matt Hall. Jesse Holmes is a favorite for this race. Matt, or let's see, I know who Josie Thur is, but I just can't place.
Well, she's running her rookie Iditarod this year.
Okay, right on.
So I know that name from that, but I don't know her otherwise in terms of her resume, mushing wise.
I think Brent Sass withdrew, is what I think I saw.
Yep.
Christy Barrington, her sister Anna ran the Knik 200, had a good race this year. I think they're bringing maybe a different group of dogs and maybe a couple maybe that ran the Knik. Lyra, she was in the Knik 200 last. Laura, sorry, was in the Knik 200, did well. She's kind of gone from just learning how to mush a couple years ago to being a total established musher now. She's gotten a lot of really tough experiences under her belt. Not sure on Mike Dolinar, but I'll figure it out this weekend. Sadie Lindquist is co-worker of Laura. She's running Mitch Seavey's dogs too, so they both are. Calvin Doherty, guess whose dogs? Mitch Seavey's dogs. So that's 3 Mitch Seavey teams. Dallas Seavey, the rookie. I don't know if he's a rookie, so he probably won't do that well. Just kidding. He might win this thing. Trevin Hunter, I don't know who that is yet. Samantha Lalonde, I believe, is Sam. That's Dallas's right hand woman for training this year. She's been helping Dallas get his A team ready for Iditarod, and I'm sure she has some of those 18 dogs on her team and will probably not be running as competitive of a race. I'm not sure on Annette. And then Paige and Cody from Squid Acres, those guys, I'm super excited to see them out there. They're good friends of mine, and they are probably one or both of those teams could be a top 5, maybe even dark horse to win it. And I don't know, Joey. Matt Hall, I think, is a favorite. Yep. He's been quietly training out in eastern Alaska and Eagle and some really tough, cold country.
He's my pick, by the way. I'm putting it out there. He's my pick.
Jacob Whitcop, I think, is a dark horse top 5 guy, potentially, but I'm not sure what his goals are for this race. It could just be to take it conservatively and get to that Iditarod start line with a strong, healthy team. I don't know Kelsey Winters, but I hope to find out more. Misha Wilges, she's run this race a handful of times, 3+ times. She's run the Iditarod a couple times. She's never been one to be in the limelight. You're not going to see interviews with Misha around the internet very often. She probably doesn't have a website or a kennel page. She just quietly likes to go mushing. She's not there for fame. She's just there to be out quietly outside with her best friends, the dogs, out sharing the trail with them and going on an adventure. And that's something that is super admirable, I think. And of course, Ryan Reddington. I don't wonder when he last ran this race. I'm going to ask him, but he cool to see him out there doing the copper and doing all these events. Daniel, I haven't met yet. Loro, of course, we had him
Shout
on.
out to Loro.
Seems like
Big
his
love right
training,
there.
I think he's potentially, I think it sounds like he's got a really strong pool of dogs. So I'm excited to see what he's doing and what his goals are. He's generally been a back of the pack kind of musher, but he's also really never fully trained his team for racing until this winter. It seems he certainly has in years past, but it seems like that's the one and only thing on his list to do this winter is get these guys race ready. And so I think he has a team that is. And then Brenda Mackey's got a super fast team. She could be a top 10 potential. She's already shown that she can go, toe to toe with the best mid distance mushing teams. So really super competitive race. 18 hours of mandatory rest, 5 checkpoints, 300 miles, considered to be the toughest 300 miles in Alaska. Forecast looks like it's going to be between single digits positive to single digits negative, which is honestly like the best forecast you could ever hope for. There's probably going to be some colder and warmer places out on the trail where it might be minus 20 or it might be 20 above. But, that's musher friendly, dog friendly temperatures. Don't have to deal with 40 below, don't have to deal with 40 above. So it makes for what will hopefully be a really exciting weekend full of sled dogs and people.
Good work, sir. That's great. Little preview of the race.
Isaac
So
Teaford.
I was going to say, last thing we got to do here is a little preview of our next guest, which is Isaac Teaford. Shout out to, I think he's the second guest to have a repeat, to come back on the second time. So we love to have him on, and man, it was good to talk to him. We talked to him not too long after the incident happened on the Denali Highway. And I kind of feel like we tiptoed around that for a little bit, but eventually we talk about it towards the end. And I think it was good to talk about it. And I think you all, as listeners, will enjoy hearing his perspective. And uh, it's tough to go through any sort of accident like that. And so I think that, like, at first I was like, man, Sean and I were recording it. I'm like, I don't know if this is a good one right now. And then, like, I went back and listened to it again. I'm like, it's a great listen. It's wonderful. So, got a lot of love for Isaac. He's a great guy. And obviously the relationship that you have with him and the friendship that you have with him is also, something to be spoke of as well. But anything that you want to say about this?
Yeah. Sometimes Isaac's a super outgoing guy, really quick to crack a, mid tier to, average joke. He does a lot of average jokes. Sometimes he makes me cackle though. Sometimes he's really
Oh,
funny.
okay.
But
So
no,
he's good at, like, the dad jokes.
Dad jokes for sure. He's a
Yeah.
dad joke kind of guy. But he's got a great sense of humor. But also life is hard sometimes, and training, sometimes you're just a little melancholy, and that, sometimes we kind of had like a nice quiet energy to the beginning of the podcast, and it maybe picked up a little bit midway through. But always good having a conversation with Chief Teef, as we call him.
Teef. I
Chief
love
Teef.
it.
And I hope you guys enjoy it. And oh yeah, Mushing. If I don't know when you're going to release this, Brennan, but maybe today. Is that possible?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. If Fantasy Mushing, I started a group. It's called Mushing Alaska Pod. So if you go to fantasymushing.com and you look up Mushing Alaska Pod, you can start your fantasy team and compete against us.
See who knows the mushers better.
But we already gave you expert
enough?
Analysis, so it's like kind of like, if anyone that wins,
don't let me get lost in fantasy, man. Jeez.
Yeah. All right.
I had the number one fantasy football team, lost first round. It's all a bunch of luck
every time, dude. That's how it works.
All a bunch of luck. But anyways, no, I love that you set that up. So, yeah, you guys go over to that and see if you can get in our group, and we'll definitely have that would be fun to kind of talk about on our upcoming episodes as well.
Yeah,
So,
and if you miss the Copper Basin, like there's going to be other races that fantasy mushing will involve. Obviously, the Iditarod, but Quest, Cusco, those are going to probably be on there. So look for that this season.
all righty. Good work today, Sean. And we hope that you guys enjoy this interview with Isaac. As always, we've got some stuff in store for you for the Iditarod. So make sure that you are liking, following, and subscribing. I would say most importantly, from an Iditarod coverage perspective specifically, make sure you are following us on YouTube. We got something in store for you. You guys enjoy.
Good to see you, brother. How's winter treating you?
Well, it's been good. It's coming on fast. We went from getting rained on just a few weeks ago, and now all of a sudden it's like it's go time.
Yeah, what's the temp in Talkeetna?
It was like 20, 25 below today.
Yeah, how does that feel on the beard?
Pretty good, pretty good. Great day for me to run out of fuel in my cabin.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
What froze in your cabin that shouldn't have?
Oh,
Or did
nothing
it stay
yet.
warm enough?
Nothing yet. Luckily, I just picked these beers up, so we're good.
Yeah, good if you, God forbid, you had a slushy Heineken.
You don't think I have that Heineken money? I'm drinking them Rolling Rocks.
Sorry, right. Heineken that's too high class, dude.
This episode brought to you by Rolling Rock.
Rolling Rocks is one of the cheapest beers you can get up here.
When you can't rock, you roll.
Oh God.
Oh,
Nice, man.
Well, man, listen, it's good to have you back on. All right. Round two, last time Sean was embarking on this epic journey going down the Amazon or something like that. No, well, you were doing in Arizona, Grand Canyon.
I just was gonna let you keep going. Yeah, exactly. The Colorado River. It's slightly farther than, it's not quite the Amazon, different continent. But I mean, it's technically the same continent, right? It's all the Americas. But yeah, that was like so bummed. I was like, suggested. I was like, oh yeah, dude, you should talk to Isaac while I'm gone. And then I was like, wait, what the fuck? Why would you talk to Isaac without me, dude?
Yeah, I mean, we had a really good time, so it's going to be hard to top that.
I don't know, man. The three of us together should be it should make for a good listen. So, yeah, but
we're killing it right now, dude. It's crazy how much we're flowing.
Nice. There it is, Sean. That's it. Bringing the good vibes. That's it, baby. So yeah, man, we're getting into the season, and how are things shaping up for you and your squad, man?
Oh, they're pretty good, pretty good. The group of dogs that I'm working with is really, really impressing me for being some young dogs. So it's just, this is their first real season of getting after it. So we're just it's also some of the biggest dogs I've ever worked with. I've got a dog on my team that's over 80 pounds.
Who's that?
Never had dogs. Berg.
Berg.
You know Berg?
I don't think
Berg,
I do.
like iceberg.
Oh, Berg. No.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's wild to see how strong these big dogs are, but they do take a little bit longer to develop. So I mean, at this point in the season, I'm really happy with how they've been doing. So it's good.
Yeah, the big dog thing is like, it's hard to have a whole team of big dogs, like if you, let's say like you could you could just pick what size dog you have. You'd like, maybe 80-pound dogs not to play, but dude, they're strong. And
yeah,
but they got to eat a lot more calories, and like, a little bit more weight is hitting on the joints with each step, so there's like, I feel like there's a smaller margin for error. Like it's easier for something to be kind of off equilibrium with those bigger dogs.
But on the flip side, the nice thing about them is they are very smooth travelers, which is nice. So even though they're big dogs, they're not pounding the pavement too hard. And it's a nice feeling to have dogs pulling you up a mountain that are they're strong. Like that one dog Berg I'm telling you about, he pulls like a Malamute. It's crazy
awesome.
to see. But no, it's fun. It's another
That's,
level of learning how to develop dogs as a musher, though.
Yeah, how old is Berg? 2?
He's 2.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and your whole squad is mostly youngins, 2 and 3-year-olds.
So right now I've got 12 2-year-olds that I'm working with, primarily, and then from there, the rest of my team is going to get filled out with some veterans and some experienced dogs and some older boys, the ones that probably don't make the A team, but
yeah, the ones that don't make Dallas's team are still going to be pretty high caliber dogs, and let alone your 2-year-olds, I'm sure aren't. They're still pretty badass dogs. That you haven't quite seen what they can do in a 1,000-mile setting, but you have seen what they can do in some pretty decent distance. I'm right. I mean, you guys have done some trips on the highway. They've probably raced a little bit.
These dogs haven't done anything longer than the Ace race as far as races go. So,
nice.
But we were at the Ace race, and we did that. We did that with them last year as well as yearlings in the springtime. But we're signed up for the Knik 200 with those guys, so we're gonna go.
Nice, dude. That's gonna be rowdy.
Hoping it's not as as windy as last time.
Oh my God, yeah. Last time, Brennan, did your Isaac's Knik 200 experience?
You'll have to remind me.
Well, just to preface it, like there was in the valley, like Wasilla Palmer Valley, there was like 100-mile-an-hour winds, like on the road, and like I think it was like a big deal for like not just for mushing, like for like people in the area that were just like living in their normal homes, like things were flying through the air.
After the race, I literally saw the front of the A&W outside of Fred Meyer's get ripped off. There were like car hoods flying across the road and outhouses like tumbling like tumbleweeds across lakes.
Jesus.
It was pretty rowdy. So yeah, it was super windy. I got the red lantern in that race. Just to get to the race, we had to bring 2 chainsaws, and we were cutting trees down that had fallen across our road to get out from the kennel. And then just a ton of overflow and crazy wind, and learned a lot in that race. But
damn, yeah, a lot of those trees, Brendan, are like killed, but they're still standing from the beetles that kind of wiped out a lot of the adult spruce trees in southern interior Alaska, and so they're just kind of like every year they get weaker and weaker, and then you have a big wind event, and they just like literally by the dozens, in just a few minutes, are falling across all over there's millions of trees, right? So they're just, a lot of them are dead, and they were all kind of fell the same day, pretty much.
I learned my lesson to check and make sure my axe is sharpened before I go out on the trail, because I had to cut through a lot of trees with a dull axe, and I actually didn't even make it to the finish line. I still finished technically, but I made it a couple miles from the finish line, and there were so many trees down across the trail. I started cutting through one and looked up with my headlamp. It was like super early in the morning, and could just see tree after tree after tree, and they were falling down around us. It was actually not a great feeling, because you're just like thinking a tree, like a widowmaker, could just fall on your team at any time. So I remember I actually called either the race marshal or one of the race judges, and they were like, yeah, the governor of Alaska just issued a hunker down warning. Like, we need to get you off the trail. Because I was the last team on the trail. They're like, are you in a safe place to turn around? And they gave me directions to go down some road. And I'm like, there's no snow on that road. It's just gravel. And they're like, we'll be at the end waiting for you to catch your team. And so I just turned down this road and started going down this road, just getting pulled. My dogs were just pulling me down. There's no snow. And then I just see headlamps and a couple handlers from the kennel were there waiting for me, and they all grabbed the sled and just boom, just like a pit crew in the NASCAR, just started pulling dogs, putting them back in the truck, and it was a wild
I can just
experience.
picture you going down the gravel road just the whole time. Yeah, dude, like the sound of the trees too is ominous. You know, the sound of the wind too. But like I remember just being even in like 30-mile-an-hour winds, 25-mile-an-hour winds, and you're like traveling down the trail in Talkeetna, and you can just hear all the creaking from all the trees around you, and it's pretty spooky.
Yeah.
I remember you were kind of, when I was visiting, I remember you guys were kind of like telling me about that, and like it's like there's just like a bunch of trees just standing, but they're all like barren, and they're all just essentially just waiting to fall, right?
Yeah. Or waiting to be cut up into firewood.
They're great firewood. You know, I think Mother Nature is going to recover, but it just takes some time. And yeah, it's great to have like all these trees that you can just cut down and immediately throw in your wood stove. Because typically you got to cut the tree down and then wait at least a year for it to kind of dry out all that wood, and then be, you know, not wet wood. I love chopping wood. I don't know about you guys.
Chop. Yeah, so it'll be fun. I'm really excited to see how those guys do in a race, because I was thinking about it and I ended up talking to Dallas a little bit about it, but I was like, these guys haven't really done much of a race, like, you know, as far as going in and out of checkpoints and doing that kind of stuff. And so we were talking about a few different races, but this one seemed to make the most sense because we've already got 3 teams in the Copper.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, like seeing those guys develop, like really. I mean, during the Knik, they're gonna like have one idea of what a race is, and in the dog's mind, they're gonna be like, oh, so it's just like 2 runs that are really long and really fast, and then
the next race is Iditarod.
Then the next race is Iditarod, and you're training these dogs, you know, probably partially for the Knik, but you know, you're taking them on these trips that kind of mimic an Iditarod schedule. You know, at least that's, you know, what I'm assuming is still going on at Dallas CV Kennel. And so they're going to be, you know, kind of ready for that schedule. But yeah, you know, you're going to see them start off the race, you know, they don't know. You can't be like, hey, just heads up, Berg, it's going to be 1,000 miles this time. It's like, I don't know. They don't know that, you know? So like, you're going to see them get to mile 300 and be like, so like, what's going, are we like, this is the part where the whole pit crew comes and takes us home. It's like, no, we're going to go a little bit farther. So you get to see like their mental development on the trail. And so that's going to be, it's a cool, you know, experience. I've done it with a couple of young dogs, but not, you know, not, you're going to have what I assume is practically half your team is going to be, you know, that level of inexperience, which is kind of in some ways pretty fun to, you know, see the dog at the start line and you see them at the finish line, and it's just a completely different dog, you know, going from a rookie to a veteran and getting that self-confidence, you know, that they get, you know, they kind of have to earn that.
Yeah. It's pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to it. And that's something I love about mushing, is getting to see that transition from when they are just little yearlings, just stoked to pull, and then see them to their first camp and see them like start to figure things out. Like even in this last ace race, seeing a couple of dogs on that team like really stepped up, and we got back to the truck in Cantwell, and I was like, man, just 4 or 5 dogs out of that group are, to be honest, I'm a little scared that Dallas is going to want to take him for his team. So I'm trying not to talk them up too much, but they're really good.
Yeah, I know you're going to be like, yeah, they were all just terrible.
They were all right.
Dogs.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. It's like, yeah, but which ones are like doing the best? You're like, they're all just complete dog water.
None of them really like to eat that much, and I don't know. I think that might be good indoor dogs.
Yeah, speaking of indoor dogs, how's your little pack of retirees doing?
Oh, they're doing good. I've actually got Stager here with me.
Nice.
Yukon and Surf, but the last couple days, Surf has decided that he just wants to go back to the kennel, And so I like open up the door and look out because I live a couple miles from the kennel. And I'm like, Surf, where are you at? Then I get a phone call. Hey, Surf is back at the kennel, just scratching at the lodge door.
What is he going via the road or via the woods?
The last 2 times the road. So he just like, I get a phone call from someone. They're like, hey, your dog just passed me. I'm out driving home. He's just running
Just
900
doing his
miles
like
an hour.
morning thing. He's like, all right, yeah, well, I'm off. I'm just gonna go on my morning jog.
Yeah.
And
So I don't know, they're doing good.
that's awesome. And so is Surf and Stager's race resumes, notable, you could say. And now they're just your couch dogs, kind of.
Yeah,
Right?
I think between the two of them, I think they've got 6 Iditarod championships, 6
And
wins.
that's crazy.
Yeah, a lot of greatness sitting down by the fire right now.
And how old are they?
Well, let's see. Surf is 11, and Stager's right around the same age, 11.
11. Nice. And he's still doing his solo 2-mile jog to back to he's like, I got to get ready for Iditarod 2024.
You know what's funny is I don't even worry about him. I'm like, he's a smart dog. He's an incredible leader. Like he remembers the trail. He knows how to get home.
Yeah, he knows his neighborhood.
Yeah, but no, he's looking very content sitting by the wood stove right now.
So, dude, how's the rookie meeting?
It was good.
Yeah.
It was long. It was long. I don't sit inside in like a classroom type setting very much anymore, and especially in the warmth. And it was tough to stay awake because I was obviously just coming off of doing a bunch of stuff, and we were doing an event down in Anchorage where we took down at the Native Head Start Center. We took like 300 kids mushing in the span of a couple hours, just downtown Anchorage. And so I was just trying to stay awake. That was the hardest part, but it was a lot of really good information, and it was cool to get to see the different people come up and talk. Like I did a lot of Air Force, and obviously the vets, and it was good. It was a lot to take in.
Yeah. So some like behind the scenes. The other day. We had Connor on, and we interviewed him, and then usually it's like 2 weeks or so before the episode comes out, and I got in touch with him before I released the episode, and he's like, man, I had such a good time. That was the first time I had talked to people in like 2 weeks. And so I was thinking about him the other day, and I was like, I'm gonna just check in and see how he's doing. And I was like, man, Sean was in town for the rookie meeting, and like they had talked about maybe trying to grab a beer while they were in Anchorage or whatever. And so I was just like kind of catching up. I was like, yeah, so how was your time at the rookie meeting? And he's like, man, I broed out with Isaac and Lauro. And so I like came back to Sean and was just kind of telling him about that. And he's like, man, we got to have Isaac on. I'm upset that you got to interview him alone. So that's kind of how we got to this right here, right now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We had a really good time. Yeah. Yeah. We drank a couple beers and talked dogs until the wee hours of the morning. It was a great time.
That sounds about right. Dude, I feel bad because Daisha, y'all's manager there at the kennel, has hit me up like 17, maybe 18 times in the last 2 years. Like, hey, could you help us out this like quick event that takes like 2 hours? There's 300 kids. We're going to take them on dog sled rides. And I'm always like, I'm not a busy guy. Like, I don't have a ton of stuff going on all the time. But every time she'll hit me up with like 3 months notice. And I'll be like, nah, it's that 1 week I'm going to Atlanta. Or, oh yeah, I'm going, she said, can you be the contact for the, the drop dogs in Anchorage or whatever? And I'm like, nah, I'm going to not be out of town. I'll be on the trail. And so I feel bad because I want to help. I want to be part of the, the good old team once in a while. And every time that you guys come knocking, I'm just like conveniently can't do it. And it can get confused for like a lack of desire to want to do it. Like I want to be there, but I just keep on being shitty timing, whatever.
Yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
You'll find your way back to the kennel in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. No,
And use
I usually make an annual visit. It's usually how we do post Iditarod seems to be the best time.
Yeah, yeah. But no, yeah, it would be good. It would be great for you to come up.
Yeah, I do need to make my way up there, dude, for sure.
Manigans, run some dogs, and yeah, need the old Sean Underwood touch. Need you to come up and teach me what you know about training 2-year-olds.
Dude, you're officially, I guess I've been on the Iditarod trail, but you always is like, oh yeah, Sean, what look at me for advice or something. I'm like, dude, you're already like experienced like at least as much shit as I have, if not more, doing this for 5 years. And you got some crazy things go down over the years, and Knik 200 being the least of them. And so yeah, now you're like the veteran, dude. And now I'm looking to you like, which way does the harness go on? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing that Sean and I were kind of talking about is this rookie class is it's got some fun names in that. It's got some folks that have run it before but haven't been able to get across the finish line. Was there any rookies that you got to meet at the meeting that you hadn't, met before or anything like that?
Yeah, a couple of them. And I guess the only one I really talked to, we didn't have a ton of time to talk. We'd have like 5-minute break here and there, but I got to know Connor pretty well the night before the meeting. So we hung out quite a bit, and I am excited to meet the rest of them and really get to spend some time with them. And hopefully we have some more opportunities before the race starts. I know we have a few more meetings and what have you, but yeah, I really didn't get a chance to talk to too many of them, but it's a big rookie field this year. I don't know how many exactly, but it's like what, 12 or 15?
Like a third of the race.
Yeah. I want to say 13 or something like that. So, yeah, I'm just excited. There's a lot of new faces, and I think that's great for the sport. And one thing that I'm curious about with you is like, in terms of the Iditarod, is this something that for you, you're kind of like it's a bucket list item, and you have this opportunity where you're working with Dallas, and you've been able to qualify for that Iditarod, and so you're gonna run it, and then from there, is there the intention to continue to run dogs, or like what's the goal long term after that?
Tunnel vision, baby.
Yeah, I'm thinking about pursuing a career at Burger King after this, to be honest. Just kidding, no. Although I do like a good burger, but no, in all honesty, I do plan on running dogs for sure. And I mean, I don't know what the year after this will look like or the year after, but there have been talks thrown around of me potentially being able to run a competitive race team in the Iditarod in the next year or two after this year. And then there's also been talk of going over to Norway. I know, and doing some more racing over in Norway for a whole winter potentially. So that's the kind of stuff that's going to keep me around. I mean, I'd love to get into the competitive aspect of it, and I did ride aside want to experience mushing in other places as well. And being at a kennel like Dallas's, I think is the only place that I think I could make that work. And so, yeah, I think it'd be great to get a chance to run the A team at some point in the Iditarod, and then maybe even go over and do some racing in Norway. And
Norway sounds badass, dude.
I got to go back to homeland because that's where my family's from.
Right. Wow. Yeah, dude, it's a full circle situation, dude.
Yeah, so I guess the only thing keeping us from going over there right now is we got to find we think it'd be really nice to find a private jet, someone who's willing to like sponsor us with a jet to fly over there with all the dogs.
that's so the plan A is a private jet.
So if you have any friends with like a, I don't know, like a private jet just laying around,
Oh yeah, dude. Long list of friends with private jets.
long list.
That's all. Yeah, dude. I would think. I mean, it sounds like what Dallas had shared about Norway, and it just seems like a pretty fun scene that's completely, distinct to the Alaska scene, and I mean, it is mushing, and there's Alaskan Huskies there too and stuff, but yeah, just it seems like it's a smaller, like you're mushing through like villages and towns that are on the road system and maybe a little bit more like engagement with the community. Whereas like Iditarod's like super, super remote and you're like one track mind out there. And I don't know, it'd be interesting to see the Norway mushing scene and it'd be cool for the coveted, what is the first person ever to win the Iditarod, the Yukon Quest and the Finnmark slope. It's never happened. And Dallas that's what's driving him to go back, I think. And, even if he doesn't win the race, it still would be a sick experience. But, that's I'm sure that's on his mind. It's certainly on mine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. As far as competitive mushing goes, that's the Triple Crown.
Triple Crown. There's a couple of Triple Crowns. There's the other one that there's a lesser shorter distance one for I don't know what they call it, but it's like the Idaho Sled Dog Challenge is like one race. And then there's like 3 races in like the Idaho, Washington. Something just, I wish I knew what I was talking about sometimes,
But so what I'm gathering from that is it sounds like Dallas has some sort of intentions to maybe set up a kennel over there, and maybe you would be part of that.
Set up a kennel?
I don't know if it would be a permanent thing. I think he had talked just briefly about wanting to spend just a whole season over there, because traveling with that many dogs overseas is pretty difficult, and it would just be nice to get over there and actually train where you're going to be racing for a few months. And then while you're over there, just do all the races, do the Femin, Finnmark, and just kind of
all those races. I know that. I mean, I don't speak very good as good in Norwegian as Isaac does, but they all sound the same, and that's because I'm ignorant and uneducated. But like Femin, Finnmark slope, and there's like 2 other ones, actually, and they all kind of. Is slope mean race? I don't know. Slope it is at the end of all of them, I think. But okay, all right.
I tried to learn Norwegian. Well, I thought it'd be cool to learn, so I started practicing it, and it's not easy to pick up. Because I spent a little bit of time over there when I was on that reality TV show, and I was like, I'm going to show up so prepared. I'm going to be speaking,
fluent Norwegian. You don't just add an O to the end of the word.
Nope.
Doggo. No,
it's much more intense than that.
Okay. Yeah. Talk about you have the most hilarious the reality show. What was it, like a race or something, or?
Yeah, it was called Alt for Norge, and
which is one of my favorite shows personally. But go ahead.
What's the English translation there, please?
Alt for Norge. I actually don't know what it means, to be honest. Maybe that's why I didn't last on the show that long. But no, it's kind of like The Amazing Race, where you're running around with backpacks on, doing challenges and stuff like that. And they take 12 Americans who are of Norwegian descent but have never been to Norway, and you're competing for $50,000 and a chance to meet your Norwegian relatives that are still living in Norway. So we all got over to Norway for the first time, and like they have us making traditional Norwegian cuisine and like riding around on trains looking for famous landmarks. And they're like, oh, you need to find this troll that's this tall and is over here. And there's like all these. At one point, everyone had to build a float for like a parade.
Huh.
Kind of all this stuff you do.
I'm just thinking of like what they said. Yeah, like you get a chance to meet your family, but if you don't win this, you don't get to meet your family. We'll never meet them.
Well, so I did end up getting contact info, but I wasn't actually allowed to meet them in person.
You're
Because
not
that's like
allowed to meet another human being?
I mean, I can meet them now, but um, what's wild is they actually have to like escort you to the airport once you've been eliminated from the show and like watch you board the plane because you like they fly you over there for free basically, and then when people get off the show, they're like, I'm just gonna stay here, and apparently it's a liability. Like the whole time you're there, you're under their insurance. And so they have to like take you to the airport and like put you on the plane. Because I thought about it. I was like, I've got nothing going on. I'm just going to backpack around and go find my family. And then.
Right. That would have been sick.
Yeah. It gives me a reason to want to go back.
When you got on the plane, were they playing like I don't know which elimination music they would play? Would it either be like the James Blunt song from American Idol? Like, what's that song? I don't know. What is it?
So, yeah, something like that. Although,
yeah, and then or the Survivor song, you know, no, that's the intro.
I do remember the flight back though, enjoying quite a few of the very nice Norwegian lip pillows, snoozes.
Oh, the little upper deckers.
The upper deckers. The Norwegians do it right over there.
Dude, that's the
you pop one of those in and you're lightheaded for like an hour. It's crazy.
It's different than putting in a Skull or a Grizz. I would assume it's a little bit better quality than the American. What do you call it? Lip pillows. I love that.
Lip pillows.
No, they're it's crazy. I mean, compared to what people are using now. But what's wild is in Norway, if they see someone like smoking a cigarette, they like look down on you so much. But everybody, even like there's like you'll walk into like a restaurant and there's like a group of cute girls and they've all got snooze in. And you're like, what is going on?
I can't tell you I don't think I've ever seen a woman with a lip in or whatever, with chewing tobacco in my life in America. And then you go to Norway and all the smoke shows are all got their you know, chewing tobacco in. And I'm like, you know, I've never been a chewing tobacco guy. I've tried it a number of times because every time I try it, I don't like it. I wait 2 years. I'm like, well, maybe now I've refined my palate and I can try it again. And then now it still just doesn't.
Man, still no. Still no. Well,
step your game up, bro. Come on now.
You know, I got my vices.
An upper decky. I don't know, man. I've done an upper decky, dude. I've done an upper decky once or twice, and I'm good on that. The head rush that you're referring to is a real thing. You gotta.
Are you an upper deck or a lower deck kind of guy?
Lower right, right here.
Upper deck with the pouches, lower deck with the loose stuff.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. I don't like.
Pro move.
I don't really. I never really dipped, but when I was in the Navy, something about being on a boat, it's like a ship out in the middle of nowhere. Something about me made me crave chewing tobacco.
Yeah, that does check out. Yeah, dude, you've had a crazy adult life. Like you done the no, you did it. I mean, the highlight for sure is getting eliminated in the first like 12 hours of a reality TV show. But
okay, first couple days.
Couple days. Okay.
No. Right. So Sean, last time we had Isaac on, we were talking about this epic trip that you took where you were going to surf next to glaciers or something like that.
Oh yeah. I did do that.
No. I'm talking about Isaac.
Okay. Isaac too. He also did that. Go ahead.
Wait, have you done a trip on the Milo?
No, oh yeah, is it out of Seward?
Yeah,
I did. And the guy was, yeah, I didn't know him very well, you know, just a guy or whatever. Because my buddy John Levan, like, I don't know if you know him, but he's like is from Seward, and he connected that to me and my buddy who's super into surfing, and he's like really into surfing. And Brendan knows this about me. I have pretty much surfed maybe twice, and I'm terrible at it, and it's never been fun one time ever. And I just get out there and I'm just, it was fun. And it was fun. I did it in Hawaii one time. That was pretty fun. But this time I went out there. We get to the surf spot. Mike is the captain's name.
Yeah, Captain Mike.
Dude, Mike. All right,
He's
let's
like
talk about
70
Mike
years
here for a
old.
second.
He's like 70
Okay,
years
this
old.
isn't Mike then. This is a different one. I know of the Milo. I've heard of the Milo. But this guy that I was on, the boat I was on, he was like in his 40s, 50s, maybe. And he's quiet and he kind of he wasn't very like upfront with how much it was going to cost, which is kind of a little bit frustrating. But we got to the spot and we're all sitting there wearing like jeans and a hoodie and like vibing in the cab of the boat or whatever. And I'm like, he had like it's an hour boat ride or whatever. Like, so he had so much time to say anything helpful to me at all. And we get there and he's like, all right, well, I thought, he had the landing dock. I don't know like what the underneath of the ocean looks like. I figured like he knows this spot. Like he'll know like when to nuzzle in and give us this super sick dry landing onto the beach where we can keep our jeans on, and then we can change into the wetsuits on the beach. And then you come back and you land on. No, he gets like 700 yards from the beach. And he's like, all right, buddy, this is where you get out. And I was like, all right, like it's going to take me. I've put a wetsuit on, but like 3 times. Like, I don't know. Like, so I'm like, all right, like you could have told me that maybe like 45 minutes ago. So I'm sitting there putting on my wetsuit. I finally get it all on. And there's this like infamous photo that maybe we can share on the Instagram later. But it was of me putting on the wetsuit and then it was inside out. Then I take off the wetsuit, put it back on. Anyways, it was a total shit show. And then I go surfing. And of course, like I don't know how to surf at all. And I just basically was just like, shivering. Okay. And then he came and picked us up like 5 hours later. And it was like raining and 40 degrees. And I was like, this is not fun at all. But I can tell people I went surfing near a glacier.
The thing about surfing in Alaska, though, is because I'm also not good at surfing at all. I was stationed in Florida for a few years, and I never got good at surfing. But there's still something to be said about just floating in the water. So like when I go surfing, like half the time I'd just get one of the stand-up paddle boards and get in a dry suit, and I'd have like a little Bluetooth speaker and a 6-pack of beer, and I'd just be paddling around with the harbor seals, just having a good time, catching a wave every now and then. But no, I'm not that good at surfing. The main reason I went on that trip was for the skiing. The surfing was cool. Skiing.
Oh, that's right. You were skiing and you were surfing. That's you did that in the same day, right?
Yeah. So it was actually a trip they had never done before. So they asked me to go along to try and see if we could make it work. So there were like some Patagonia reps coming out to do this trip to like do, I don't know, like film something, and they wanted to see if it could be done. And so we just went out and, had a little skiff, and we'd get up into the mountains, go skiing, and we'd be roped up on glaciers. And then in the afternoon, we'd be catching waves. It was pretty cool.
Step your game up, Sean. Where you at with
I do.
With the 2-for-1, bro.
Did it remind it's just like the everyday life of Isaac. Mine's like not as everyday like that nowadays, but living in the city. But like, even just going out and driving around Anchorage, like it's pretty sick mountains, and I'm in them once in a while. And it's just like, I would say like the shock factor of like how beautiful Alaska is, it's not there. It's like, I don't like drive, to Wasilla and I'm just like, oh, look at that beautiful. It's like, I am kind of, but I'm not like, getting, we're going to be when you first show up here, it's a special thing. Nothing's like your first time doing anything. And no, I just think of like you doing this glacier stuff and like, it's like so badass. And then I like get on social media and like somebody just went to like, some mountainous place for the first time. And they show like what I would consider to be, pretty regular mountains. And they're like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, I really do take for granted how sick it is being literally everywhere around me. It's like, it's so special how many mountains and how beautiful it is. And I've realized, if someone were to come up here for the first time, this would blow their mind. And I forget, I'm starting to forget that after 8 years of being up here, I don't know.
Dude,
You
and
can relate.
I'm gonna butt in. We've done it in some other episodes too, but like that's the one thing that like I'm always thinking about Alaska is because it's just ridiculous. Like everywhere you go in Alaska, I just remember my head would just being on a complete swivel. Just like the, there was the one trip that we went where I got there, it was fall, and then I saw all the leaves change, or I guess it was kind of like summer, right? I remember we were playing like cornhole and I had like a tank on and stuff. Then it got to fall and I saw all the leaves change. And then by the time I left, first snow, all the leaves had fallen. And this was all over like a
10 days. Yeah.
12 days or whatever. So Alaska is so freaking beautiful. And it's like it's funny, you see like pictures of other mountains and Sean's like, oh, that's not as good as Alaska, It's
Those
like,
are hills. Those are hills.
Yeah.
I try not to be like that guy. And I like now that when I go home, I remember the first couple times I went home, I was like, you guys, it's just so amazing in Alaska and da 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 da. And now I go home and I'm like, I try to avoid talking about Alaska about as much as I possibly can because it's just like, I can't describe it to you. If you have questions, I'll glad to discuss it with you. But like, I realize people really don't care. They're like, all right. I'm like, yeah, there's mountains and it's beautiful. It's like, it's not a sick story. It's not a great story. You're like, yeah, I went hiking and there was mountains and it was pretty. And then you show them the picture and they're like, sick. It's like, all right, most people don't really care, and if they will care when they show up here though, kind of thing. And that's why I'm always trying to tell people, come on up, dude. It's a special place and you can do it in the summer and do it in the winter because it's two different places.
Speaking of cool experiences in the mountains, you guys want to climb Denali this May?
I'm in, dude. Fully in.
So we got
100%.
plans to go for the summit.
Who?
So far, myself, Dallas, potentially Kelly Maxner, Jake said he was interested in doing it, and Griffin as well, who's worked at the kennel before.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be super down. I'm in terrible shape probably, but I could get in shape for May. It's December.
Yeah, all you have to do is just wear a backpack with 50, 60 pounds of bricks in it for everything you do. You go shopping, carry around some bricks.
Just like see if you can get like in an environment where you have like 60% of the oxygen that you typically do.
You just got to get one of those like Bane masks and then put Dudecki on your back in one of those little dog carriers and then just walk around and you'll be prepped.
Dudecki, for those of you who don't know, Dudecki is referring to Sean's dog, Jack, who has the nickname.
Think the darkness is your ally?
Sorry, I had to do my Bane.
All right, so I gotta bring us back in for a second on some mushing stuff.
Oh, right. Mushing. Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to hang out with my buddy.
I think that is like the focus of
all right, fine.
This. But so one thing that I've been kind of curious about is I know that there is like certain requirements that you need for a race to have in your sled. And I've been kind of curious if there are items outside of that you are like, man, if I don't take this for this upcoming series or for this next race or whatever it may be, and it might not be like something that you traditionally would think about, but is there anything that is just like, I gotta have this that maybe someone wouldn't think of when you go on these events or on these series?
I don't know. For some of the stuff, it might seem obvious if you live in Alaska, but like I don't mush anywhere without a gun anymore at all. And that's just from having multiple experiences with moose run-ins on the trail. And it's just something that I feel the need to always have with me. And that's not a requirement, but a lot of people around here do carry those. And then, I don't know, besides that, there's I mean, a lot of it's just kind of like the small comfort things, I feel like. So for work, I mean, working for someone like Dallas, he's very much like, you know, he won't really bring much extra of anything. And to me, like, having an extra pair of dry gloves or an extra pair of dry socks can really change the way you see your experience going when you're out there. And for someone like Dallas, he doesn't, he doesn't even change his shirt the entire Iditarod. And I love having a clean shirt waiting for me after like 400 miles. Having like a fresh base layer to put on when you've been running up hills and sweating, and something about that just flips around my mental, I don't know, headspace. But yeah, there isn't really a whole lot that I really consider necessary. I don't know, having a pair of headphones can really make life a little bit better when you're
It's great. Yeah, that is a crazy moment when you're like, I've been hearing silence in my own thoughts for like the last 90 hours, and then you just like put in some music. You ever just like in general for anybody, you ever just not listen to music for like a couple weeks and because you forgot that that's what you should be doing, and then you like listen to music and you're like, oh, that's why I've been sad. I haven't listened to music in a while. Okay.
No, music, like my personality. I mean, music is a big part of who I am, and so I can listen to music and it'll change my complete attitude. And so if I'm like spiraling into negative thinking, like, oh my gosh, this storm is we're going so slow, like what's going on, I put on some good music and I've actually been
Pull
listening
out the trumpet, dude. Pull it out.
Yeah, actually I just did an interview with Greg Heister yesterday, and I pulled my trumpet out and played a little ditty for him in the dog yard.
Oh no, dude,
Nice.
that's gonna be a huge hit. Oh my gosh.
And what's actually really perfect about it is Dallas was feeding his dogs in the background, and I was playing, and as the sun was coming up, and all of his dogs that had just finished eating were all howling. Ooh!
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
It's pretty perfect.
We'll have to check that out for sure.
So I'm actually still on the theme of mushing. I was talking to Greg about it, and I'm like, has anyone ever played a musical instrument from their sled crossing the finish line on Front Street? And he's like, no. And I'm like, would that be like a breach of any kind of rules if like my dad were to like hand me my horn coming down Front Street and I play a little ditty? And he's like, I would love that.
Hell yeah, dude.
That's awesome, man.
So I'm going to have my dad fly with my horn out there. And then another cool thing is that whole finishing week in Nome, a band I used to play with back in the day on and off is going to be playing the entire finishing week. Yeah.
Nice.
And so I'm hoping to, depending on what time I finish, I'm just gonna roll right off the sled and then just
straight onto the stage, baby.
Straight onto the stage to play a little ditty.
A little ditty, dude. You're like a classically trained trumpet player, right? Something? Is that what they say?
I did play classical music, but my jam was more jazz. I played a lot of jazz, a lot of funk. Played some ska.
Got really ska, dude. That's what trumpets are.
Yeah, I played in marching bands, and
I'm still disappointed that when I came to visit Sean, you left like that same day, because like I'm sure you would have pulled that out at some point, and we would have just jammed out and had a good time. So,
oh yeah, Sean and I have many memories of playing music around burning piles of trash until the wee hours of the morning.
Yeah, I'm always quick to pull out the guitar. No one asked for it.
No,
not a single person has ever said, "Hey, Sean, would you mind playing a guitar?" But I play.
Sean, you know how to play the guitar? Will you go ahead and grab that for us? Thank you. Yeah,
It never happens. I actually am always just ready. And then they're like, "Hey, could you shut the hell up? I'm trying to have a conversation." And I'm just like, "You're my wonder wall." So it's pretty fun for everybody, I think.
Yeah.
So Isaac, I was curious about how long have you, like, what's the longest series you've done, or like what's the most mileage you've thrown down in one, series or event or anything?
I was just thinking about that the other day. I don't think I've gone any more in like a single series where we're actually like we're not like I don't know, where we're actually out on the trail. I can't say I've done more than 450 miles in a single go. but I have done a couple of them.
No more than 400. Fucking weak, dude. You kidding me? You haven't done 1,000 already? God.
Well, no, I'm just asking from the standpoint of, where's your head at when you think about, okay, well, you've gotten about half the way of the Iditarod before. What was that experience like running 400, 450? And like how are you on sleep deprivation? I'm kind of curious about, some things that maybe you haven't experienced before and where your head's at, with that coming up.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be. I mean, I feel like every rookie in a race like the Iditarod probably has to come to terms with it's something they've never even gotten close to doing, and then are about to go do. And at some point, it's just going to be just figuring it out. Like, I mean, mushing is, and something that mushing mentors have always told me is like you're just running dogs. Whether you're going for 200 miles or 400 miles, you're just running dogs. And granted, after 500 miles, I imagine there's a set of, there's going to be things that I haven't experienced yet that I've only heard about. And as far as like how the dog team begins to change when it comes to traveling and eating and resting and all that stuff. But, you're just going to have to take it in stride. And I feel like I've learned a lot from the people that I've been training with, and I feel pretty well prepared, but I don't think anything's going to actually prepare you for what 900 miles into a 1,000-mile race looks like until you're 900 miles into a 1,000-mile race. So it's kind of just, I mean, I think now all I can do is try and prepare my team and myself as much as I can to be ready for it. And then once we get out there, we'll just have to just figure it out, just go from there. But it is definitely, the longest race I've ever done is 300 miles. And even at the end of a 300-mile race, you're like, whew, I'm tired. Like,
dude, the 300s are slept on, dude, because everybody's 1,000 miles on the Iditarod. Okay, sure, the Iditarod's like hard or whatever, I guess. But like, dude, the 300-mile race, like, dude, at the finish line, first you sleep almost zero on a 300-mile race. And I don't know, dude, they're not to be messed with. At the end of my 300-mile races, it was like, I don't know. That I felt like in some ways more tired than I did at the end of the Iditarod both times because, you're in travel mode by day 10 on the trail. Like, you just vibing, dude. You're like, I'm used to the 2-hour nap or the 1-hour nap and getting a couple of those. And then you go to sleep when you're done with it and you wake up after a couple hours, you're just like, and you're feeling well rested,
Yeah.
And so yeah, with the 300, you never really get to that mode. It's just like a punch in the face. I don't know. I think and yeah, I don't know. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, like in 300 miles, I feel like by the finish line, I'm just starting to get into that groove, and then you're done. Because I don't sleep in 300-mile races. I've never been able to. I think it's the heroic amount of chocolate covered espresso beans that I'm eating.
Oh yeah, crucial.
So I go to lay down. I'm like, wow, cool. I have like an hour and a half to maybe catch a nap. And I sit there in my sleeping bag, just like twitching. I'm like, some really strong coffee beans.
That's a power move right there. The chocolate covered coffee bean. So obviously, we don't really need to talk too much about this if you don't want to, but it's worth bringing up the incident you were involved in and on the Denali Highway, and now there's Mike Parker and Jim Lanier's dogs. That is pretty much almost identical instance, and such a bummer. I have my thoughts on it, but firstly, my condolences. We've already talked. But obviously that was an insanely difficult thing for anyone to go through. You were there, and so was a couple other people, Josiah and Dallas, and yeah, it's a pretty fucked up. So, what are your thoughts? And if you don't want to talk too much about it, we don't have to dwell on it too much,
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, it's definitely kind of every musher's worst nightmare. I mean, that's something I've always prided myself in, is being able to take care of my dogs in any scenario. And like you were saying earlier, like I've seen a lot of stuff with dog teams. I've been in moose attacks. I've had my team tangled up in moose, and I've been able to handle those situations, and none of my dogs were ever hurt. And I pride myself in being able to handle anything and take care of my dogs, and that trust that they build, just like looking at me and they're like, you got me. Like, this guy, he's going to take care of me. He's going to give me food. He's going to take care of me on the trail. And I've always prided myself in that. And then in a scenario like that, you feel very, very out of control because there's very little you can do. But I mean, at the end of the day, the response time of everyone from the kennel, and just like how we were able to get out of there, and the dogs' lives we were able to save, was pretty incredible, being that we were, I mean, off the road system and had no cell service. But I mean, it was like a NASCAR pit crew. People came from all out of the woodwork and were helping. And so it was really cool on a positive note to see the mushing community just stepping up super quickly in a pretty remote part of Alaska. And being able to see that was, I guess, a positive of the situation. But it is a pretty big bummer. All the dogs that were injured or didn't make it were all a part of my every qualifying race I ever did was with those dogs. And just, yeah, it hits close to home. And but I guess now it does kind of give me a little bit of motivation to try and do well in the Iditarod for them. In the back of my head, I think about it, I'm like, because they would have more than likely been on Dallas's team or my team, depending on where they ended up. But yeah, it's definitely would never wish that on another musher ever, or any animal lover with their animal. Pretty tough to handle. And I thought I'd be pretty good at handling it, but it's still pretty fresh, for sure. And I don't really know how to go forward now with there being a second event happening 10 miles away from the exact same spot where our deal happened. Tough. I know a lot of people have a lot of things to say right now on the internet.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse, the internet and the social media, and everybody can just float their opinion out there.
Emotions are high.
Yeah, it's I think, that obviously ripping down the highway and super high speeds is a little bit unsafe, but it's also like, if you think you have it's on a straightaway and you think you can do it or whatever, great. If it's snowing and windy and stuff, it's hard to see a dark dog team. And, I think this, if any good comes of this, I'm certainly there will be something good that comes of it. It's going to be that, hopefully snow machiners are slowing down on the Denali Highway. Hopefully that word gets around, and they're in any traffic at all, you're yielding to, because it is a highway. It is kind of the wilderness, but ultimately it's not really. It is a state road. And then mushers I would think are going to be, anytime they especially on the Denali Highway or any frequented trail by snow machiners, are going to be having as much reflective gear as they possibly can, having lights around, illuminated lights around your lead dogs. I think we had some harnesses that were reflective over the years and some weren't. I didn't really put too much attention on to whether or not they were reflective. And now, moving forward, if I'm running a dog team out, I'm thinking, especially on the Denali Highway, I'm thinking, all right, let's what can we do to be the most obvious thing that these guys can see? And, it's easy to place blame on, I see people saying, oh, he should have had your dog team better illuminated. And that's the other, of course, all the mushers, a lot of them would say shame on the snowmobile for the reckless driving. And I think, both sides can learn from it. And, I don't want to, I don't know what I think of it. And whatever I just said, I don't know if I said this, I don't know what the right thing is to say there, but, I think as everybody just kind of keep an open mind to, what can be done to avoid something like this ever happening again. Because there's a pretty long history of dog teams and snow machines getting in these accidents.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely just, and from my experience moving forward into Iditarod, it definitely gave me something I wasn't necessarily worried about, a little bit more of a foothold. I was talking to, up at the Ace race, I was talking to Bridget Watkins actually, and she was talking about different stories, from Allie and experiences they'd had with snow machines. And she was giving me some really good tips and tricks on, camping on the river, kind of like going to Squentna and like what she does to keep her team safe with reflective tape on ski poles, making an X in front of her team and just covering all this stuff. Because she's like, there's going to be a ton of snow machiners going up and down the river that first leg of the Iditarod. It was never something I was really that concerned about until recently. And now I'm like, oh man, I got to take out a credit card just to go buy reflective tape because I'm going to buy a lot of it. And like anything that is reflective. And you've seen my parka. It's obnoxious.
Yeah, it is. It's bright orange.
They call me the street cone because I bright orange covered in reflective stuff. And, so yeah, but I don't know. It definitely is a bummer, just the highway in general always felt like a very safe space for mushers, a very safe place to go train that people from all over the state travel to. And it's a great place because it's wide, it's nice and open, and you can get some quality miles in and really get your team moving and camping. And yeah, I've already talked to a lot of people that are just not really too excited to go back to the highway after this last month. So it's that's a bummer,
And just a follow-up question I have is it just kind of coincidence that it happened so close to each other, or do you think that there is something more, something else that needs to be done to fix this problem?
It's pretty stinking wild that it happened where it happened and kind of in a similar fashion, I guess you'd say. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like people just need to understand that we share the trail, and it's just like being a mountain biker and, being someone who rides horses on the trail and just, understanding that there are certain right of ways and trail etiquette, because I would say 99% of the people we passed when we were out training there last week, they'd pull their snow machine completely over and they'd stop and let us pass. Some people would even be taking pictures and waving and, and there's a very respectful way to pass a dog team with a motorized vehicle, and I don't even think you have to necessarily stop, but I think the respectful thing to do would be to slow down because you can't really control whether or not your dog team stays on that side of the road you're running down. I mean, I've had dog teams like, oh, there's a porcupine over there and try, or a bird, and they try and run across the other side of the trail. They're not nearly as predictable as what some people might think, and they oftentimes will do what they're supposed to do, but not all the time. And I don't know. I think we all just have to realize that we're not the only people on the trail, and whether that means reflective gear or just, slowing down to match the trail and the conditions and the weather. I don't know. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're all out here trying to have fun and we're all trying to just enjoy Alaska. So I think there's definitely a way to do that. But there's also a wrong way to do it. So
Sure.
I don't know.
Sean, you're on.
There's no rules out there on the Denali Highway. It's like there is, of course, there are laws or whatever, but like you go and you show up to the Denali Highway. There's a giant sign. It says, once you go past the sign, you have like zero help. and you should bring, you know, all the survival gear and for extreme winter conditions. And there's like, then you get on the highway and they, you know, I think it was only within the last 10 or 15 years that they put the milepost markers on the highway. And then, you know, there's pretty much, I think there's one sign for like a hunting area and maybe like this is you're 100 miles from the end of the highway kind of sign. But there's really like no signs out there. You know, there's probably some rules you could look up, but you really have to like search the internet long and hard for it. But that's like the attractive part of that highway is you get out there and it's like you're on your own, you know, you do kind of what you want to do. And but the reality is, you know, there's other people doing that same thing. So you got to be respectful of each other, just like going on a hiking trail and you're behind somebody that's hiking slow and you want to pass them or whatever, you're the slow person and someone's behind you, you might just scoot over. So yeah, it's super surprising that and yeah, you know, I think there's really not a solution that's just going to be like, just do this. You know, it's like ultimately it's everybody's own responsibility to be respectful out there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, like we all just want to have fun. We all want to, like, don't get me wrong. I love riding snow machines. I love it. I just bought my first one a couple weeks ago and I love riding snow machines, but after this situation, after this whole thing that's happened over the last month, I definitely have come to realize that riding a snow machine is literally like riding a little like crotch rocket missile. Like seeing the damage that one of those things can do at high speeds is pretty sobering. And so, as much as I like going fast, it's kind of changes the way that I see myself riding snow machines because it's not something I ever want to be on the flip side, of being the one to cause an accident like that.
Yeah. I'm sure those guys don't feel great about, being on
the receiving end makes you feel pretty shitty and being on the other end, I can imagine probably feels just as bad, if not worse. So
yeah.
At the end of the day, I think we can all learn from it. It's just unfortunate that it had to affect dogs, but
yeah. So one thing I wanted to ask, kind of switching the subject a little bit, maybe we kind of wrap things up here on a more positive note. Sean and I were talking about a video we saw where Dallas, I am assuming that you were on this same trip with Dallas where y'all ran out of gas and he had to mush to Jesse's to get gas. Can you tell us a little bit more about that story?
So I actually wasn't out there, but so I was actually sitting right where I'm sitting right now, and I get a phone call from someone from the kennel, and they're like, "Hey, I just got a inReach message from Dallas, basically saying that they ran out of gas, truck mushing out, and they asked, hey, could you ask anyone who lives in the area to see, like, could you reach out to like Jesse Holmes or something like that?" And so I hit up Jesse, and he responded almost immediately. I was like, "Hey, I hate to bother you." It was a little bit later at night, but we've got a crew out there, and they're just ran out of gas, and they're not about 45 minutes away from where he lives in Brushcanna, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm getting dressed now. I'll be out there shortly." And so I wasn't actually involved in it, but Jesse told me afterwards. He's like, it was a great time. He's like, we hung out and he was telling me, he's like, he told me, I thought it was going to be pretty easy, this year racing against Dallas. But after I saw him, the way his mind works, building that sled, he's like, I don't know, I might be up against some competition. But to be completely honest, I think Dallas actually had a lot more fun doing that than just the normal mush out without running out of gas. Like, he loves stuff like that. He loves when things go wrong. Like, he's a problem solver, in the core of who he is. He loves doing that. He loves doing that type of stuff. So,
yeah, the problem solving, I think that was something you don't want to say I've said it and then regretted saying it, but it's like sometimes it's a bummer when you just have like a perfectly smooth and boring run. You're like, oh, what can't like something go down that they need me, the hero, to fucking do something, you know? But yeah, it's like that's got to be real fun to figure out. You know, how am I gonna? We got this giant truck and all these dogs, and well, we got plenty of power with the dogs. We didn't bring any sleds, you know, and they find a piece of plastic to sit on and have the dogs pull them to Jesse's. That was pretty cool, man.
You know, what's funny though is I remember on a trip last year, we were talking about it. I'm like, well, like, what would you do if we ran out of gas out here? And he already had a plan, and he basically described exactly what he ended up doing. But this was last year, so he's like, oh, I already have a plan on how to build a sled. I'd mush straight to the gas station, go fill up a jerry can, and mush back. And
so the gas station would be interesting because you're on a real fucking road going to the gas station. That would be pretty funny. Just have a car pass you. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, no, nothing to see here.
You get to
really
the stop.
You know,
you get to the stop sign, and you go right past the trooper station right there, and then you get to the stop sign, and it's like you're like at the highway, like the actual highway.
Right. The real, like the Denali Highway is like a misnomer to say the least. It's a dirt road. That dirt road,
which in the wintertime can humble you if you're not prepared. I've been out there before, and I mean, Sean, you know, it can be an experience out there.
Cold and windy, for sure.
Cold and windy.
Yeah, there's sometimes it gets really windy out there, and then right where Jesse lives, this guy, dude, poor Jesse, just like
so cold.
The cold, like the coldest place on the Denali Highway is where he lives. It's just like
we went through last year when I was training with Kelly Maxner, and we went through, and it was cold, and I didn't have a working thermometer with me at the time, and I just started running, and like I look back, and Kelly was putting straw in his overboots, like stuffing straw from camp into his overboots, and he's like, "How cold is it?" I'm like, "I don't know." We got back to the parking lot in Cantwell. And I hit up Jesse on Facebook. I'm like, how cold was it? And he's like, oh, it was like 57, 60 below. And I was like, geez. Like, it felt oppressive. You know, like 40 below is like pretty cold, but 60 below, it's like
40 below. It's pretty good.
I mean, like, 40 below is like, okay, you got to be prepared. You got to be dressed. Otherwise, things could go bad. But 60 below is kind of like, it's almost funny. You're like, this is so cold, because 60 below is 15 degrees away from the average winter temperature on Mars. 75 below is the average winter temperature on Mars. 25 below is the average summer temperature on Mars. That's cold.
Crazy. That's a crazy stat. I like that stat. Big fan.
Big fan. Yeah, I listened to a podcast with Elon Musk the other day, so you know, remember something from that.
Nice. Well, Sean, did you have any other questions or anything else we needed to discuss before we wrap things up for this episode?
Yeah, but not for the podcast. And yeah, I think, man, thanks for hanging, Isaac, and glad we got to do it. And, you know, I might have been slightly low energy today because I'm feeling a little fevery, but you know, it's not that hard to talk. So. But my brain feels still like not dialed in. But I hope this is someone found this entertaining at some point.
Yeah, we got past that beginning part where you were bringing the energy strong, my guy.
Well, it's always good to talk to you guys. I'm glad I got to get both of you in the same room together. So that's good,
dude. I can't wait to do one of these. I can't wait to do one of these when we're all three actually in person, like in the same room together. So we look forward to that one.
Is that going to happen soon? Is that going to happen?
We're trying to get a sponsor to fly Brendan out here. So
yeah, if there's any sponsors,
if the guy with the private jet can hook that up, it'd be pretty sick.
I've actually been I've been sending messages to people I think might have private jets. I kid you not. I sent a message to Joe Rogan the other day and was just like, hey, if you have a private jet, would like let us use it? I think it'd be pretty cool of you.
Joe just had like some guy from bull riding, I believe, on his podcast. And then, bull riding's got plenty of heat from activists and stuff, but they also have like so much financial backing from just it's like people are gonna love that, and it's a Texas
PBR.
thing, and
Yeah.
PBR, Marlboro.
so and then we don't have that backing because we're all the way up here, and it's remote and inconvenient, but I'm like, dude, if you're gonna have a rodeo guy on there, like, you should holler at your boy Dallas, come down, and that would single-handedly, having Dallas talk to Joe Rogan about mushing with pretty much.
Well, I've reached out because he's interested in being on it, but he doesn't have the time to be reaching out. So I sent a couple messages because I think it'd be interesting, because not only that, I mean, being who he is as a musher, also being as a wrestler, I think he'd have a lot in common, being able to talk to him as the only state champion wrestler from Alaska, and being in the Olympic trials at a very young age and all that kind of stuff. But yeah,
that I think that would be an amazing thing to set up. So Joe, I'm sure you're listening. If make it happen.
let's make it happen.